We have 3 chapters left, 51, 52, 53. Let's get a little review for a moment. So we're starting a new section, these last 3 chapters, coming to the finale of the first book. If you recall, in the last 10 chapters have been practical methods, methodologies, and how to create an enthusiasm in our divine service of Torah mitzvahs. How we can have the love and awe of God that will bring life into our mitzvahs, into our Torah study, into everything in life that we do. Before that, in chapter 35, we quoted from the Zohar, from the Yenuka, as he's called, this child prodigy, who gave us a beautiful metaphor that we should always have the divine presence upon us. Don't go bareheaded, right? You have a yarmulke. And make certain that the light of God is always upon you. How is the light of God going to be upon you? Well, if you create the light, how do you create a light? So you have a flame, you have a wick, which is a conduit for the flame. What contains and holds the flame? The light of God. And what's that wick? In the metaphor that we had in chapter 35 was the body. And what now is the fuel that will create the light? Is the oil. What is the metaphor of oil? So the Alter Rebbe said it's not our divine soul, which you might think that is the fuel that through the conduit of the body will create a light of God as the soul, divine soul, even though it's a part of God. But once it's in the body, it has an identity of its own identity and not completely nullified, and therefore cannot create the light of God. But what is that oil? Is good deeds, mitzvahs. Mitzvahs, God's commands, are the fuel that are done through the conduit of the body, because a body has to do the mitzvah. Giving charity, it's a physical act. Putting on tefillin is a physical act. Lighting Shabbos candles is a physical act. Taking your feet and visiting the sick, when we can do that, right, is a physical act. Even moving our lips when prayer is also considered a physical act. So it's the fuel of mitzvahs that's done through the physical body that creates the light of God upon us. So the Alter Rebbe now continues with that theme that we quoted from the Zohar in chapter 35, and asks the question, or doesn't openly ask the question, but we need to understand, what does this mean? That oil is a metaphor for good deeds, when usually oil, olive oil in particular, right, excuse me, is a metaphor for chachma, wisdom. We translate it as wisdom, meaning wisdom is the first of the 10 attributes. It is, we'll see more, what that means. And so how did the two come together? How do mitzvahs and wisdom, the two things come together? So in order to understand that, the Alter Rebbe says we first need to understand another important question. And that is, we know that the Shekhinah, which means the divine presence of God, dwells in the Holy of Holies, right? The Holy of Holies in the Holy Temple. How do we understand that concept that the Shekhinah dwells in the Holy of Holies? We know that that God fills the entire world and there's no place devoid of him. So how does it make sense to say that God's presence is in one place, right? When he's everywhere. There's no place that's devoid of him. And that ties in with also the idea of good deeds, right? That we do good deeds in the presence of God. We create that light. How do we understand that? When God is everywhere. So to understand that, we have to look at ourselves. From understanding how the soul interfaces or plays or is enclosed within the body, and we can understand the workings of the soul within the body, then we'll have an understanding of the way that God interfaces, encloses himself, is found in creation. And then we'll understand the distinction of what we mean that God's Shekhinah, divine presence, is in the Holy of Holies, as opposed to the fact that he is, at the same time, found everywhere. How do we understand that? So that's where we're going. So, today we're going to explain two dimensions of the soul. The essence of the soul versus the functionality of the soul. So, the Alter Rebbe explains. Where's the essence of the soul versus the functionality of the soul? So, what does it mean, functionality? My soul is in my eye. It's also in my ear. It's also in my mouth speaking right now. It's also in my feet that make me walk, or give me the capability of walking. That is the way the soul is found specifically in every limb to give it the capacity that it can have its unique functionality. The eye to see, the ear to hear, and so on. It's not the limb itself that has the capacity. It's not that the eye has the capacity to see. No, it is a vehicle that when the soul clothes itself in it, that it gives it the capacity that it could see. But it comes from the soul. So the soul has within it, shall we say, the compartmentalized capability of going into the various compartmentalized organs and giving it its unique qualities and functionality. Okay, we get. And therefore there's the distinction between one and the other. However, the essence of the soul, the core essence of the soul, there's no distinction on where it's found, all the same. Whether it's the head, whether it's the foot, the toenail, whatever it is, the essence of the soul is found equally everywhere, without a distinction. So again, where is the distinction? The distinction is the various organs. As the soul contracts itself, reduces its light, that gives a specific quality and functionality to a specific organ. But that's the soul that invests itself uniquely in each organ. However, the core essence of the soul, there's no distinction. It's equally everywhere. And that's the metaphor for today. There's going to be a third part to this metaphor that we're going to learn tomorrow. And then the application of that metaphor. Because when we understand, as we mentioned, from my own flesh, I can perceive godliness. When I can perceive how, or understand how my soul interplays with my body, so then we'll understand how God interplays with creation. Interfaces is found. So what we learned today, again, and this is only in the metaphor right now, but in the metaphor itself is an important thing to appreciate and to understand how we work. The essence of the soul versus the functionality of the soul. There'll be a third dimension. It's actually in between these two. But for that, we'll have to come back. We'll have to come back. Excuse me. I have spring allergies. Actually, I'd be better off if I had a cold, because I've mentioned this before, a cold comes and goes. But the spring allergies might be here for a while. But that's okay. All right. Who did we not get a chance to say a good tova, a shavua tov, a good week to? Tommy from Michigan. And Jody from Kirkville, New York. Boker Tov. Joseph, shalom to you from Nice, France. Oh, very nice. Okay. Stephanie from Bloomington, Illinois. Thank you for joining. Lizelle from Manhattan. Good morning. Irina from Colorado, shalom. Sigalit, Shavua Tov to you in New York. Karen, Boker Tov to you in LA. Thank you for your kind words, Rena. Tarek, Shavua Tov from Egypt. Very nice. Wonderful. And David from Montreal. Thank you for joining. Heather, good morning to you. Norwich, Connecticut. Clem from Brisbane. Must be like early, I don't know, late evening, early morning or something. Linda from the Netherlands. Hello and good afternoon. Beverly, shalom to you in Alabama. I'm not certain with Tommy if you're asking a question. By wisdom he hath created the earth, and that's why Malchut elevating to the Chochmah to involving. Oh, okay, very good. Well, we're going to get there, but excellent. Susanna from Hollywood, Florida. Shalom and Heikel, shalom. Who else? Yaritza. I don't know if I got that right. Amen. Thank you. Sandy, good morning. Cindy from Florida, Boker Tov. Joe, Aleichem Shalom from California. Josephine, good Vach. Ruth from Cape Town. Okay, thank you for joining. Terry from Greenwich, Connecticut, Boker Tov. Stanley, Shavua Tov. And Dina from Texas. All right, thank you. All right, folks. A reminder, sharing is caring, so please share the Alter Rebbe's teachings with others. Also a reminder, tonight, 6:30, Torah Studies class on Chabad ZK Zichrein Facebook page, or if you're interested in the to be also part of Zoom, so we'll have that information, or private message me, as I've mentioned, for your email, so we can keep you posted of all things. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from my home in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful day. Shavua Tov, good vach, a wonderful week. And we should accomplish a lot and do good. Be well.